Larry Johnson met with the media Tuesday. And Larry's a little long in the tooth. Is that fair to say, Chris? I think he's 71.
I would agree with that.
71, 72 years old.
He's got a little experience under his belt.
For the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or so, Chris, all we have heard every offseason is the negative recruiting stories that people are coming out and saying that you shouldn't go to Ohio State if you're a defensive lineman because you never know when Larry's going to retire, right? The big school that used that a lot against us was Alabama,
right?
Particularly Nick Saban. And who was it that decided to hit the old retirement first?
That's right. Nick Saban himself.
Not LJ, who we call the living legend around here. So, Larry's asked this question about, hey, you get presented this every offseason about whether you're going to retire or not. And he's talking about Edric Houston and how Edric Houston was like, look, if you're not going to be there, Larry, I'm not coming to Ohio State. And Larry's like, hey, listen, all I can do is be completely truthful and honest with these guys and tell them the truth about where I'm at. And he says, if you come here, Edric, I can promise you I'm going to be there. I'm going to be here if you come. Okay. Now, did he promise him multiple years? I've heard people saying, well, he promised him he was going to be here. So that means Larry's going to be here at least for 3 more seasons. No, that's not. He said, I would be here if you come, meaning I'll be here this season. That's how I interpret it.
Yeah.
I think Larry's on a year-to-year basis at this point. And what I find very interesting is Larry's son is on staff now.
Yes.
I don't think
perhaps a Larry in training.
Perhaps. I mean, that has crossed my mind. Also, what's interesting about this, Chris, is I think with his son there now, it's almost rejuvenated him.
Yeah, I can see that.
He seemed like a very excited and spry 71-year-old man Tuesday.
Well, and I'll tell you, when I watched that press conference, you can. I don't know if it was intended, Eric. We talked about this before the show, but I'll tell you, I think there was a little bit of a backhanded shot at maybe like a Tony Alford with his comment.
Yeah, I'm leading up to that, Chris.
Yeah.
I was leaning up to that. Hummus wants to know about Tony Johnson, Larry's son. What position was he? He says, was he a running back? I assumed he was a linebacker for some reason, Chris, but
we'll find that out.
Yeah, let me look.
I'll tell you what. You've got the notes there. You're in charge of the soundboard. Why don't you keep going and I'll look.
Okay, cool. Go, Tony Johnson. See what he was, what position he played when he was in college, high school and college. Okay, Dylan, you gotta be kidding me. I walk into my apartment and my dog is watching this show. Well, first off, does that mean your dog is a Buckeye fan? Is that what that means there, Dylan? It also could mean this: your dog really wants to call in. Like I would gladly receive that phone call. Just saying. No, so Larry's fielding these questions, right? And he's talking about the negative recruiting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then he drops this beautiful gem on our lap.
I loved it.
Here is the exact quote. I wrote it down. I put it in a story. If you want to go over to theohiopodcast.com, the story up at the top is Tony Alford could have learned a lesson from Larry Johnson. That is the title of my article I wrote. This is the exact quote from Larry Johnson. When I make the decision of what I want to do, I'll tell them, I'm not going to recruit a guy, bring him here, and then take off. That's not in my DNA or my character. He goes on to say, Chris, It's about believing in principle and about who you are as a coach. Then I think if there was a shot towards Tony, this is it. I'm not chasing money. I'm not chasing anything. I'm chasing greatness with my players and a hope that they have a chance to be really special. And that's what's important to me.
Boom, mic drop. That is why he is a GOAT right there. He just dropped that bomb. He did not come out and call Tony Alford out by name, but Eric, you know who that shot was directed at. Because I believe I know this whole coach feels alienated by what Tony Alford did. And I'm telling you right now, they'll keep it professional because that's what our coaches do. But that was a shot directly at Tony Alford, no doubt about it in my mind. And by the way, his son was a wide receiver.
Really? Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Wide receiver at Penn State.
That doesn't mean he can't coach defensive lines. I mean, his dad's
That's right.
a legend, and as Larry said, it's not in his DNA or his character to do what Tony Alford did.
Yep.
And so I would say the apple might not.
That's a pretty good DNA right there, Eric.
I mean, I'll take it. I'll take that DNA, man. So you look at this, and I'm trying to change over to I got my TV on up here, so I'm going to turn on the NCAA games here so I can watch them off the corner of my eye here. Anyways, you watch what you have going on here is you have a coach who has been at Ohio State. This will be his 11th season, Chris. I think I looked it up this morning. He was at Penn State for 17 years.
Correct.
So he's got more time in at Penn State, but 11 years at Ohio State. He's the longest tenured position coach at Ohio State and one of the longest tenured coaches in the Big Ten.
And you know what that tells me is he's a guy who, and he said it, his personal ambition is not going to override team goals because you got to believe somebody who has produced the amount of superstars that Larry Johnson has created. You go all the way back to Courtney Brown at Penn State. You look at the Bosas, Chase Youngs that he's helped develop. All the stars that he has put into the NFL. If he had the ambition and was just driven by self-promotion, that man would be a head coach somewhere right now.
Yeah, I agree.
He is dedicated. And by the way, he is 1-0 as a head coach. Let's not forget that.
Michigan State,
at Michigan State
on the road. Yep, you got it.
And the best game that defensive line had ever played. I'm just going to put it out there.
All season long. Yep.
But, for me, I just feel like he is such a class act and a man who is, I think he's content at being the best to ever coach defensive linemen in college football.
I agree.
It's what he thrives on.
I agree.
And I think you're right. I think the energy's back with him.
It sure felt that way.